Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of Acts of the Apostles. We're up to chapter 7, verse 9. Kai hoi patriarchai, and the patriarchs, Selosantes, having become jealous of Joseph, ap edonto, well, they either handed him over, probably sold, I think apodidamai can mean to sell, and of course that's what happens when you read the story of the book of Genesis. They sold Joseph into Egypt, and God was with him. And we have to understand God again as the subject, and God rescued. So ex halato, it technically should be a weak aorist, so a strong aorist, but it's got a weak aorist ending here. This is from, the hail is coming from hyreo is the verb. So ex hyreo is to remove, and hence to rescue, to take out. And the aorist is halon, which is a strong aorist, but here we're getting the aorist middle, weak aorist middle. So God rescued him, or took him rescued him from all his thlipsis, his tribulations. This is from thlipsis. It's an iota sigma, third declension feminine verb. So from all his tribulations, and he gave to him charin, favour, grace, and wisdom, enantion before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And now it's not quite, well, it is clear, isn't it? The Pharaoh must be the subject of this. There's a change of subject here. It was God who does this initially, and now it has to be Pharaoh, I think, because of the next bit. And he appointed him as ruling, hegemai, leading, literally, ruling over Egypt, and in square brackets, and upon all his house. So hence the subject presumably must be Pharaoh. And Lemos, a famine came upon the whole of Egypt and Canaan, and a megale thlipsis, and a great tribulation. And our fathers literally were not finding, so they could not find, kortasmata, which is fodder or food. Akusaste, but Jacob having heard, sitia, food being, that there was food, this is neuter plural here, there was food in Egypt, there was food in Egypt. He sent out our forefathers, our fathers, proton at first. So at first or perhaps for the first time, given what's coming up in the next verse. So Jacob, hearing that there was food in Egypt, he sent out our fathers on the first visit, and on the second visit, Joseph, anegnorizthe, this is aorist passive, it was made known to his brothers, and because remember that he was sent off there as a young boy, and now he's a grown man. He would have perhaps changed a bit, perhaps he's grown a beard and he wasn't recognisable, but so he was made known to his brothers, and the togenos to Joseph, and the race of Joseph, literally became visible to Pharaoh. So he also became cognizant of Joseph's race. So the race of Pharaoh became known, perhaps open, visible to Pharaoh. And Joseph, having sent metakalesoto, this is metakallio, but it's in the aorist middle here. So he sent for Jacob his father, and for all his race, And we get this funny expression here, which is a Hebraic expression. It's the N is really along with. So perhaps consisting of 75 souls. So literally in souls 75, literally. So we translate it as consisting of 75 persons. 75 is the number given in the Septuagint version. The Masoretic text actually says 70, but we generally don't always get consistency on these things. And so Jacob went down from Katabino. This is the aorist here. Bino only occurs in the New Testament in compounds. Here it's to go down. The bino itself means to step, so originally, and this is to step down, so it's just went down. You do get bino in poetry in classical Greek, but generally, even in classical Greek, outside of poetry, it's generally in compound. So he went down into Egypt, and he himself, this is from teleutao, he had his end, so he died, and our fathers. So he himself and our fathers. So he died and our fathers. That's the usual way to express this. It's a singular verb going with autos, but then you get an extra subject here in the plural, but it doesn't affect the singular verb. So he died and our fathers. Kai met et tethesan. This is from meta plus the perfect passive from it's a funny form really, because the thesan looks like an aorist, but you've got a reduplication of the verb here. So and it's passive. So they were transported. They were transported into Suchem, that's I think Shechem, and Etethesan, and they were placed in the tomb, and which, but it's gone into the dative by attraction, which happens almost always in Acts. The relative pronoun seems to in Acts to take its case from its antecedent, not from its own clause. So in the tomb, which Abraham, this is from oneomai, to buy, for a price of silver, from the sons of Emor in Shechem, in Suchem. Now the details really are not quite totally consistent with what we read in the Old Testament in Genesis 49, but again we often don't get complete consistency with these things. And kathos, just as or when the time of the promise which God had made an agreement with Abraham, when that drew near. This is from Engizdo. There's a variant reading here because it's slightly awkward. This is from homologio, to agree. Variant reading is to read omasan, to swear, which God swore to Abraham. But the Greek as we have it is just as the time of the promise, again relative pronoun taking its case from the antecedent, not its own clause, which God had agreed with Abraham, when that drew near, the people Euxesan, this is from Auxino, or possibly from Alkeo or Alkao. There are various different forms of this. Auxino is the main form, and this is probably a later form. Perhaps it's from Alkeo. The people increased and were multiplied in Egypt. Akrihu, from that time, Basileus, a king, Aneste arose, a heteros king, so a different king arose, and in square brackets in Egypt, who did not know, this is past tense from oida, who did not know Joseph. And he, katasophisamenos, it's a funny word here, it means to trick, really, to trick. So having played trickery on our race, Kakisosan, he maltreated our fathers. 2 plus infinitive for the purpose, so literally so as to make the brephe, these are the newborns, ektheta, placed out, to make our newborns placed out, ace top plus infinitive, so as not to produce life. So it's a funny expression here. So it's literally so as to make a casting out of their children, so that they might not generate life. So this was a way of population control. And in which time Moses was born, and he was asteos. He was pleasing, attractive to God. This is a funny word. It's connected with astuacity. So it's sort of almost dandified. So he's like a person from the city. They're well dressed and attractive and clever and so on. But it just generally, by this stage, it just means pleasing or attractive to God. And he, anastrophe, from anatrepho, we get a vowel gradation. So for 3 months he was reared in the house of his father, genitive absolute, but when he was put out, the daughter of Pharaoh took him up and reared him. This again is from it's the same verb as we have up here, except we get it's irregular, and reared him as her own son, as a son for herself. And Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was powerful in words and deeds. Just to mention this verb here, so the verb is trepho, but this was an original theta which deaspirates by Grassmann's law, and then when we turn this into threpsato, then this is no longer an aspirate, and so the original theta comes back, and so we just get threpsato, and then as the aorist, the augment, of course. So this is an example of Grassmann's law that I've mentioned in one of the earlier videos here. The original form being threpho shortens to trepho by Grassmann's law, and when the aspirate disappears here, it reappears here. And that's the end of that section.